Welcome back, everyone. It is Tuesday. It is Dom. It is Garrett. I'm back in the whiskey barrel. You're out there in Facebook land. Garrett's over there in Chicagoville.
Back in Chicago again. I am in another state from the last time we spoke, but
Garrett is a traveling man. But we have a fantastic episode for you guys today. It is such a wonderful day. The NBA season tips off tonight. And Garrett, you know what that means.
In the most petty way possible.
Oh, yeah. In the most petty wars to the max. It's been the day that Worldwide Wob has been dreaming about. The beginning of the season is here. We've got the Rockets with Chris Paul, James Harden, only one basketball, going up against the Warriors. We also have the matchup, the trade that just happened, opening day. You've got Kyrie, now a Celtic, IT, now a Cav. You have LeBron. Is he going to play? We don't know completely, but all of this stuff comes together.
LeBron will go in, and then if they get down real early and they aren't playing and Boston's looking way better, it's injury. It's just injury.
Exactly. You just needed some more time. But
that's what it was. He tried to rush it.
But it's so wonderful. I tweeted this out today, Garrett, and by the way, guys, we have a fantastic interview for you as well. So make sure you share this. Hit that share button.
Share it up. Boom, boom, smartest NBA man on the planet.
Yeah, so, it's your boy,
Drew Hanlen.
Boy,
yeah,
Belmont.
Drew Hanlen. He played at Belmont, so I pulled my little I know strings, and so
there you go.
He's a beast.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to him about Belmont. We're gonna talk to him he works with Joel Embiid. He works with Jason Tatum. He works with Greenlight Galloway. He works with just a ton of dudes Bradley Beal, Wiggins. Yeah, just a ton of guys. So it's gonna be really interesting to chat with him. But Garrett, this week I realized it this morning. Let me just run this down for you. All right, Monday Night Football, MLB playoffs, NHL. Tuesday, NBA returns, MLB playoffs, NHL. Wednesday, a whole shit ton of NBA, NHL, MLB playoffs. Thursday Night Football, college football, NBA, maybe NBA playoffs. Friday, college football, NBA, NHL, maybe MLB playoffs. Saturday, a shit ton of college football plus the NBA and some pucks. Sunday, we've got NFL Sunday, even more NBA, and even more NHL. And then next Tuesday...
And I bet there's a Sunday college football game. Isn't there usually one in the afternoon?
There'll probably end up being one. So, what a wonderful fucking time to be alive.
It's the perfect time.
And then from that, you have Monday Night Football, and then after that, the actual World Series starts. World Series starts next Tuesday, too. Holy shit, I love being a sports fan. And this week is what I will argue. I'm going to say it's probably the second best week, right? Because you have all these things going on. The only thing that I think actually beats this is the opening weekend of March Madness. That right there is.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, that's when this podcast got started. Was right then. So
our roots.
That's our roots. We have to go back to it. We have to say it's our favorite. But I'm just a very, very happy. Like I tweeted it out. If you see us smiling ear to motherfucking ear, that's why you see it.
Yeah, well, it's what we deserve after.
True.
Dude, once I guess the PGA Championship kind of helps me hold on for a little while, but there's just a little while there before football starts. Then there's no golf that matters has happened. And I'm just does anything matter? What are we doing?
Exactly. And it's good. Did I make money betting international basketball? Sure. But do I want to continue to just do that? No. What I want to do is I want to talk about what we get to talk about. And there's so much of it. So, G, what do you say we just get the hell out of the way and pull in our guest so that we can...
Yeah, let's get Drew in here, and then we'll rock that. We'll talk more about how obsessed and excited we are about sports after the interview, and what happened last week, crazy college football week, and we will talk about one of the most insane backdoor covers in the history of time with the Titans on Monday night. But we'll bring in Drew Hanlen, my man, right now, and he's going to drop some knowledge bombs. Hey, everybody, welcome. We've got an awesome interview. I think, low-key, one of the more knowledgeable people to be previewing the NBA season, which is always an exciting time, especially after this offseason. But we got Drew Hanlen with us. He's the CEO of Pure Sweat and an NBA strategic skills coach and consultant. So he's working with guys like Bradley Beal on the Wizards. He's worked with Andrew Wiggins, Joel Embiid, recent multimillionaire now. Zach Levine. How does he actually pronounce it? I actually don't. LaVine. I thought so, but you never know with me. But for me, more importantly, he was a beast for my Belmont Bruins from '08 to 12. Started 77 games, and I had to double check some of the stats. So senior year, you were averaging over 30 minutes per game and finished with 10.8 points per game. So is there another stat in there you're most proud of from your playing days?
No, I mean, I think that the thing that we were most proud of as a group is we left Belmont, the senior class, as the winningest Belmont class in the history. So 2 NCAA tournaments, but we won the most games. And then the second thing was, a lot of people don't know this, but I finished second in the country in three-point percentage that year.
I thought that was you that year, but I couldn't find, I couldn't be 100%
sure. Who's won? Who was ahead of you?
There was a guy from a small school, and the crazy thing was I was in the NCAA tournament. We were playing against Georgetown that year. And so I was at 3 for 5, which clinched it. I mean, I had the title. We ran a last-second inbounds play. We had like a couple seconds left on the shot clock, and I had to heave up a shot that got blocked. And if I wouldn't have shot that shot, if I would have just shot faked or let the shot clock run out, I would have had the title. So I was literally one shot away from leading the country in three-point percentage, but I ended up finishing second.
That's a big team guy, though. I got to say that I respect the move. Instead of just padding your stats and taking that, you went for it. So that's good.
We were in the NCAA tournament too. We were only down a couple points, so it was like one of those things that winning the NCAA tournament game would be way more important than winning a regular season stat title that no one really cares about. So look back at it, I don't regret not heaving it up there, but it was something that was crazy. That was literally one shot away.
That is wild.
I do want to ask you right off the bat, like what is it like playing in the NCAA tournament? Like, is that just
I was at that game too, by the way.
Was that a wild ride?
Was crazy.
So here's the thing about the NCAA tournament. So as a kid, for me, that was like my dream, was playing in the NCAA tournament because, while I knew that I wasn't going to be super tall, I figured there was going to be a ceiling on my career at some point, which probably isn't the best mentality. You should be like, kind of believe that you can do anything and everything like that. But my goal when I was playing, youth basketball and high school basketball was to play in the NCAA tournament. And so once I got there, it was just like another game, which is crazy to say. But the difference, what people don't realize, is you have so many, especially in the first round games, you have so many different fan bases in the arena that it doesn't feel like a home away game. So when we played against Duke, we lost by 1 point at Duke to open up my senior season. That was crazy because, you're playing in Cameron, opening game. It was Coach K's 899th win, or maybe 999th win, because he was one away from 1,000. Those kind of things are really, really cool. And those experiences, I played at Kansas, and hearing they're, doing their rock chalk, Jayhawk before the game. Those are the games and the atmospheres that you kind of are like, wow. You kind of take a step back and are like, this is something I'm going to tell my kids about one day. But the NCAA tournament game, it was the week leading up to the NCAA tournament was more cool. When you're doing the Selection Sunday parties, when you're walking around campus and everybody's patting you on the back and everybody's real excited and where you think you're going to go. So really the game was just another game. It wasn't anything crazy just because the fan bases are so spread out. But it was cool when we played both Wisconsin and we played Georgetown in the 2 years that I played. Since we were the underdogs, all the other fan bases kind of just jump on the bandwagon or just like, we want the top guys to lose. So that is kind of cool.
Yeah, and that was one. I remember the Georgetown year particularly was one of the years which it's often like, it's been like that a ton for Belmont, where every single analyst under the sun picks Belmont for the upset because there's there's going to be an upset in the first round. There always is. I love the Bruins, and then it was like, you guys are literally just murdering us one small paper cut at a time as each of you jumps on board. And that's the one thing not the one thing we have left, but the next huge milestone for Belmont and for Coach Bird is to get that tournament win. I was at the Georgetown one too. It was I wasn't one of the chosen students, but I was like, Columbus, Ohio, we can make that drive easy. And it was a wild time.
I think that's crazy is my junior year, we ended up matching up against Wisconsin. We led the country in three-pointers made that year. They were number 1 in three-point defense that year. And we were 30-4 going into the NCAA tournament. We had lost to Tennessee both times at Tennessee. by 1 point each time. We lost to Vanderbilt by, I believe, 4 or 6 at Vanderbilt, which that was when they had 3 of the top 31 picks.
That was a good Vandy team.
We just blew one game in our conference, but we were 19-1 in our conference. We're 30-4 overall, and we end up getting, I think, an 11 or 12 seed. It's just like one of those things that's hard to kind of get over that barrier when, each and every year they look back at your history and say you haven't won, but you're like, this is a whole new team. But it's one of those continuous cycles that hopefully Belmont breaks one of these times, and I know that that's the one thing that Coach Bird has left on his kind of resume to kind of seal the deal and kind of put it over the top, just because Coach Bird started when Belmont was an NAIA school, and for him to kind of be as dominant as he is at the mid-major level is just a compliment to how good of a coach he is. But I really do want him to kind of get that first nod and first win in the NCAA tournament. It kind of get the burden off his chest and kind of do everything that he set out to do at Belmont.
Yeah, I think he will. And yeah, you all were part of that team that was, I mean, we're too good to keep us in the A-Sun, because was it the year after you were? Yeah, so it was the first year you were gone that was our first year in the OVC, right?
Yeah, I was there all 4 years when we were at the Atlantic Sun, and it was funny because the year after we left was when Dunk City emerged, and they went to Sweet 16. We beat them the year before 3 times, and the 3 times we played them, we beat them by like an average of like 30-something points. It was crazy. So we just dominated our conference so much that we had to move conferences. We went to the OVC, and since then they dominated that conference as well.
Yes, continue to dominate.
Been able to get over that hump of beating those high majors in the NCAA tournament when we're maybe not as fairly seated as we think we should.
Yeah, no, We'll move on from this, and then after one more point, like the Georgetown one felt like very like doable for us, because the Wisconsin one was that number 1 3-point defense, and then I think the year after that or 2 years later, we got matched up against an Arizona team that went on like an insane run to start the season, but then somehow lost like 10 straight games, and we were like, well, there's like when it comes down to the end of their season, they're still gonna beat the hell out of us, like just because they dropped. I think they dropped. Yeah, it was like 4 of their last 5, and then lost in like the first or second round of their conference tournament. And I was like, that doesn't make them bad. This was like a terrible setup for us. There's always an excuse, I guess.
I do have one college question, because we are definitely going to talk to you about pro stuff. You've got a lot of really awesome people that you work with, but with the college season being right around the corner as well, I know I'm really excited. Miles Bridges came back to my Spartans. We're looking really good this year with Izzo. Is there any specific teams that you think that like anybody should look out for, in the college game this year that you think can actually make some noise?
It's going to be the same teams as always. I mean, Duke has obviously, tremendous talents, and they've got Marvin Bagley, who's a phenomenal prospect that I think is going to be one of the, if not the number 1 pick in the draft, number 1, 2, or 3. I think the team that I think is going to be kind of fun is Mizzou. Me being from St. Louis, I worked with Mike Porter when he was like a 7th grader for the first time, and now he's he'll be 1, 2, or 3 as well in the draft, and I think it'll be fun to see how well they can turn around, because last year they were just awful. I mean, they lost every game in the SEC besides maybe 1 or 2. I think it was really bad record, and so to see how much one class can kind of change Mizzou's program will be fun. And then the usuals, I mean, Kentucky and Kansas and Duke. I mean, it's always the same at the top, and that's what makes college basketball so fun. We just spent 5-10 minutes talking about mid-major team like Belmont, hoping that they could win a game or 2. I mean, there's going to be those surprise teams that sneak up, and everyone's saying, "Oh, I knew I should have picked them." There'll be some of those, but I think it'll be your usual teams at the top. It's just so hard to compete with them from a recruiting landscape, because these top prospects that are one and dones, they go there because they're just preparing for the draft, and they also want to build their fan bases so that when they get to the next level, they're more valuable. People don't realize that a guy like Jason Tatum gets a huge shoe deal because he was able to build his brand at Duke. And same thing for Kentucky and Kansas and all those other big profile, high profile teams. But I think it's going to be the usual, at the top. And but I think there are going to be some mid-major teams, and I think it's going to start balancing out a little bit more as these guys continue to go one and done, because as this one and done kind of trend happens, a lot of these one and done guys are going to, like Markelle Fultz, he goes to Washington so he can showcase his skills. If the one and done guys start spreading themselves out instead of all kind of grouping up and teaming up, it'll be interesting to see kind of the, how the college landscape changes. And with the new rules, I remember with the new kind of all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how that affects college basketball in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, we could be in for some crazy shifts in power and just like, I don't know. Mine as a Kentucky fan, it's like I'm not gonna throw stones from like a glass house or anything here because like at any moment in time it could just be breaking that we've like broken every recruiting rule on the face of the planet. In which case I'll be like, hopefully everyone has been just doing the same and they just have to tear it down and restructure how all of this works. That's like, I either want to be able to say like, nope, we're good, haha, or be able to be like, okay, we definitely got caught cheating like red-handed, but let's just hope everyone else has been cheating red-handed because you can't suspend every single school and then, or without having to readjust what the rules and things are. So maybe we'll have to have you back on to chat, the effects of that and the way college basketball season's been going and looking if you've got the time. But I know we're lucky to get you for a little bit now as you were in Philly yesterday, you're in Washington today, working out with some players. So I guess we were talking about it briefly before we started recording, but kind of a quick synopsis of what your company, Pure Sweat, does, and then also what you kind of do for these players through that or through the way that you're working with teams and individuals from the kind of consultant, skills coach, strategy side.
It's funny because a lot of people look at my Instagram and think I just hang out with NBA players all day. And during the summer, I work them out, but a lot of the work goes on during the season. And so what I do during the season is I travel around from client to client. I'm on call. So at any given point, if they're struggling with something or just need some extra work, I am immediately on a plane and I'm out to see them and try to fix whatever's going on with their game. And another big part of it is just building relationships with these guys, making sure that I'm there for them. There's so many things that go into, a basketball player's success on the court, and that means, their mental capability off the court, their happiness off the court, etc. So I just make sure I'm there for them as much as I can be. With Embiid, he's been out. We didn't get to spend this summer kind of improving as much as we wanted to, and so I spent a good chunk of the last week with him and just making sure we did a lot of film work and got him prepared for opening night. Now I'm with Beal and Oubre, who Embiid actually plays on opening night. So I'm covering my bases. I know that my guys are going to, one of them's going to win. I'm going to be happy. Now I'm up here in Washington, and Brad didn't shoot as well from three as he wanted to and just was having troubles kind of with his ball pickups on his shot. So we were in the gym last night. Today we'll do the same thing and just get him ready for opening night. So, during the season, it's me traveling around, doing a ton of film work from afar, and then traveling around to these guys and kind of fixing any problems that kind of arise throughout the season and making sure that we don't have, a 1 or 2 game kind of problem that leads to a slump or a kind of a change in how they're playing and how they're feeling about their game.
Pre-slump buster. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is kind of to fix it before it happens. But obviously there's things that happen that we just kind of go in, and I'm just kind of their private coach. You know what I mean? Their coaches have to look at what's going on within the team, and I'm just looking specifically at them individually so I can give them kind of a more detailed eye and hopefully give them solutions for every problem that they're facing throughout the season.
So with the season just starting, are there a few players you expect to spend more time with? Not because maybe they're having the biggest issues, but like, for example, like you said, Embiid didn't get to make as much progress this summer as he wanted. Are there any like younger guys that are new that you're expecting you'll have to kind of be in touch more, be physically there for them more this season, or guys that are recovering from injury or did have a down year, or maybe their roles completely shifted on a team they're on, something like that? Do you kind of have to do you at all forecast kind of where you think your time will be spent?
Yeah, the good news is I fly Southwest everywhere because they let me change my flight. So I literally have like multiple flights booked at all times so that I just choose which one I'm hopping on. But, I know I'll spend a lot of time with Jason Tatum being a rookie in Boston. He's a little brother to me. I've worked him out since he was a freshman in high school. And so, I'll be with him a lot. Embiid not being able to spend, the summer with me because of his knee injury. We only got to work out, a handful of times throughout the summer with like full speed. And so we'll do as much as we can to get him back in shape, and then also try to improve on last season's success in that short period of minutes. Another guy, Zach LaVine, who went down with an injury, his role completely changed because now he's the man, in Chicago. And so he's pretty close to being cleared. I'll definitely spend a lot of time with him. And then a couple other guys, I mean, like Kelly Oubre, a guy that his role is changing. He's going to be cemented in the lineup this year, and will have to provide a bigger role for Washington if they want to kind of break through and make the Eastern Conference Finals. And then guys like just other guys, just new guys, you know what I mean? So I have guys like Langston Galloway, who's now with Detroit, or Myers Leonard, who this was the first summer with me, or Solomon Hill, who's recovering from injury. I mean, each guy has their own kind of stuff that's going on. So while I'd love to say, oh, yeah, there's one or two guys I'm going to kind of be able to help out a lot, I mean, the truth of the matter is I'm going to be on the road, 28 out of 30 days. And, right now it's, what's the day? October 17th. I actually don't land back in my home in LA until November 18th. So I'm on the road next month, traveling around to different guys. That's just what I do. And, the biggest thing is just being there for the guys and making sure that they have success as much as they can on the court and happiness off the court.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to get off to a hot start this season, so it makes sense that they're kind of trying to hoard your time. Dom, you're about to ask something. I cut you off.
No, it's fine. I do want to talk a little bit. I think that what happened with all of the trades and what happened with obviously the big trade between the Celtics and Boston and everything that went down there, and you're close with the team in Boston. I think that they just have. I'm really interested to see how that entire team's going to mesh. I actually went to high school with Al Horford, so part of me is kind of just pulling for them a little bit. But I want to see Al keep doing well. But how do you see that team sort of fitting together? Because they have a lot of new blood that's in there. They're bringing in a proven veteran like Kyrie. It's is Danny Ainge's plan finally starting to come to fruition with stacking up all these draft picks? How do you sort of see the season shaking out for them?
For me, I'm very invested in them because of Jason and, it's close. I think it was a great move. It was one of those things that it's weird, but talking to a lot of the GMs around the NBA, they basically all say the same thing. Are we going to try to beat, the Warriors in the West or the Cavs in the East? Or are we just going to basically kind of rebuild and reload and try to kind of project when LeBron's not going to be LeBron anymore and be really good in 3 to 5 years when we think that he's going to start, eventually he has to start going downhill. I mean, everyone's been saying that for 3 to 5 years now. Age is going to catch up to him, and he's been able to kind of withstand and get through all the injuries and all the other things that kind of normally we see from these superstars when they start to decline. But eventually there's going to be a time where LeBron's not single-handedly the most dominant player in the league. And so I think that what the Celtics did was they gave themselves a chance to compete now, and they also set themselves up where they have, a young superstar in Kyrie. Gordon Hayward's still young, so he's going to be reaching his prime in the next 3 to 5 years. You got guys like Tatum and Brown and those guys that are coming up. So I think they did the right thing where they still are competitive, so their fan base, they don't lose their fan base, but they also set themselves up where they're going to be good when it matters most in a couple of years. And who knows, you never know what an injury or something like that can do where, somebody from the Cavs happens to go down and they have a chance to beat them and reach, Eastern Conference Finals and stuff like that. That'd be great. But I think he set himself up. It's the only thing you can do. It's that those teams are so dominant that you kind of have to say, we're just going to wait until they're not dominant for our chance. And a lot of teams are doing that in the West too. It's the league has changed so much in the last couple of years from one, the 3-point analytic era, two, being the, hey, listen, if we can't compete for a championship, we're just going to try to get really bad and stock up and get draft picks, kind of the process era for, Philadelphia, where at first they hated on Hinkie, but his plan is working so far. Obviously the guys in Philly, they have to stay healthy and have to prove themselves. But if you look at the teams, Minnesota, obviously I'm close with Minnesota, what they've done, they did the same thing. They got really bad. They got a bunch of number 1 picks, and then now they're competitive in the West. So I think that teams want to be either really good or really bad. And that's why there's not as much kind of middle ground as we're used to seeing back in the day.
Yeah, I think it's finally starting to come out of the tunnel is how much of a risk it is, because of teams how many top 5, top 10 picks does Orlando need to continue to still be awful? And then the one that makes the least sense to me, I was going to ask you about him, is the Phoenix Suns. When I look at the talent on some of that roster, I'm see these names really they give me buzz, they're going to be good. I'm excited about them, but then I think about the way they've played the past couple of years plus, and I'm like, no, they're still probably going to be terrible, and they're going to try to embrace the tank still. It's
hard. Part of it is drafting the right guys. Part of it is, having a great organization that develops. I mean, you look at like the Spurs, and it's every year the Spurs. It doesn't matter if they're picking, 25 through 30. Whoever they pick is going to have a great career because they're going to be able to develop them. They're going to be able to put them in a winning system. They're going to be able to have good mentors. And so if you look at the teams that are doing it, one of the things that Andrew Wiggins, he said he learned a ton from having KG on the team. Kevin Garnett was there. Yeah. So while Kevin Garnett at that point in his career was not a dominant force, on the court, he helped mentor him off the court. And so you look at how that situation played out, and it played out really good. And you see what Karl Anthony Towns, same thing. They both loved kind of Flip Saunders. Then when Flip passed away, KG kind of took over the reign and made sure he helped out the Wolves because he was so indebted to the franchise. But you need mentors and you need guys to help you get your young players better. And so you look at Philadelphia right now and you have a guy like J.J. Redick. He's going to be able to help that team a lot more than just making shots and spacing the floor because he's been there. He's been around the league, and he's been able to help out, other young players. So I think that's the thing that if you look at it and you said, and I know the Suns organization well, and I know they have really good people in there, but I think the one thing that maybe they've lacked right now is they haven't had those vets that have been able to really kind of put their foot down and tell these rookies how to kind of get better, how to work in a daily process. And I think that that's something that's necessary because, overall, a player is only as good as kind of, one, he thinks he is, and two, he works to be, and then three, if he hasn't ever seen kind of what it takes to get to that level, it's hard to kind of just figure it out on your own. And so that's one of the things I think that when you look at Orlando, if you look at this, it's hard when you don't have consistent coaching, you don't have consistent front office, you don't have, and sometimes it's just luck in the draft. You get a guy, everyone's bragging right now about Kyle Kuzma or, rookies like that, where a couple of months ago, if you had said, hey, we're taking Kyle Kuzma in the lottery, everyone would have been like, that's the worst pick ever. You know?
Yeah, and I think like for some of them it's huge. Like in my mind, when I think of the way that the T-Wolves have kind of gotten back to the level they are, is that it goes back to having the asset in Kevin Love and that kind of sparking more of the rebuild, the trade for Wiggins, but still being so kind of having a valuable asset and then being able to be bad and young. And like whereas the Suns have just slowly kind of been bad and young and tried to never really make the big push for a lot of assets that brings in young talent while being bad. I don't know. It's a tough balance. It's an interesting way the league's set up these days. But it makes for an exciting season. I mean, this year's going to be crazy with all of these offseason moves. I mean, before we jump into, if any of these teams that have made drastic changes and tried to become a super team in their own can battle anyone, Are there any players that we haven't talked about or that are slept on a little bit that you're excited to watch this season? That some of the young guys. I mean, last year's draft class was pretty solid from what I know, which isn't a crazy amount, but from what I pay attention, which I know more being a UK fan is the reason I pay attention more because I want all the guys to get the most money and good draft picks. And but I don't know, like I'm so pumped to see Bam down in Miami. I think that'll be insane. I think if Monk stays healthy, he could be an exciting new player. Are there any guys that anyone's sleeping on?
I mean, I think this class is very interesting because every year, every draft class is way overhyped or underhyped. You know what I mean? Normally when they're predicting a really, really bad class, there's a ton of great role players or a couple, stars in them. And when they're overhyped, like, in the 2014 draft, which I worked out a lot of the guys that, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Clarkson, Embiid, Langston Galloway, those guys were all first team, all rookie guys. But I mean, you look at who got extensions. Joel and Andrew both signed $148 million deals. I mean, outside of that, those are the only two max players. Jabari Parker, obviously injuries. And then you go down the line, there wasn't as much star potential as everyone thought there was. And so this year, again, everyone's hyping that there's 10 guys that could be stars or maybe 9 guys all the way up to Dennis Smith. I just think it's going to play out, and it's different because if you look at like what success looks like to Jason Tatum, who's playing on a team that's going to be contending for the East, that's going to look a lot different than what success is going to look like for a guy like Lonzo Ball, who's going to have the ball in his hands at all times, and the Lakers are going to try to force him to do things that maybe he's not capable of doing. So he might do what I call the Jeremy Lin theory, where Jeremy Lin when Carmelo Anthony was out, was getting 60 ball screens a game set for him. He went crazy, had the insanity happen. But during that time, while he did play really well, he also averaged like 10 turnovers a game. I think it was like 9.5 turnovers a game, and his efficiency wasn't very good, et cetera. So I have a theory that in any NBA player that's a mid-level NBA player, a decent NBA player, if you get enough things run for you, if you're force-fed the ball, you're going to do well. Andrew Wiggins' rookie season, if he was with the Cavs, he might have averaged 10, 12 points a game, but he would have contended, and he would have had LeBron. But he gets traded for Kevin Love, and he averages 18 points a game, and everyone's like, wow, he's an amazing scorer. Yeah. And while he did improve a ton, it's just different situations call for different things. So I don't think you can judge how good a rookie is going to be based on their situation because, again, the opportunities are so different for each of these guys. There's going to be some late bloomers that are on really good teams and behind really good players, and there's also going to be some guys that look really good. You know, you had Michael Carter-Williams a couple years ago that was on a bad team that put up crazy numbers. And then you look, he got traded for nothing when he got traded, and it was just because people kind of saw through some of that stuff. So the big thing that I always tell people is wait until their first contract's over to kind of start judging a player because that's when you can really tell what kind of career they're going to have. And there are going to be some special guys. You look at what LeBron did his first and second year in the league, or Kevin Durant came in, but Kevin Durant shot under 30% from three his first year in the NBA. A lot of people don't know that. You know what I mean? You look at KD, you look at Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't shoot over 20% from three until his sixth NBA season. You're like, what? Like, people don't remember that he used to get knocked out of the playoffs and jump shot, and then he became the greatest player of all time. So I think that there's going to be a lot of rookies that are going to have, signs of greatness, and then they're also going to have their rookie wall where they smack it and have, struggles and slumps. But that's just part of the process. I don't like judging rookies until they're year 4, 5, 6, and then from there you can kind of see what kind of player they're going to be.
Well, let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about some of the guys that are in the league for, have been in the league for a couple of seasons. That, like, out of the people that let's just say that you were working with, like, who do you think is going to take the biggest step forward from last year to this year?
I'll take some of the guys around the league too, but I mean, I think Giannis. I mean, everybody would agree. He's one of those guys that each year he's like Kawhi Leonard's kind of growth pattern. Each and every year he's got really, really good. I think it'd be interesting to see how the Thunder mesh because Paul George last year he wasn't as maybe engaged and interested as he was. It's hard when you're losing games. So now that him and Carmelo for the first time in a long time is on a contender, is Carmelo going to go USA basketball mode and really blend in and fit in? And Carmelo was playing more defense than we've seen him play in the last couple of seasons during preseason even. So, I think that'll be interesting to see how the Rockets kind of solve their two ball handling, issues.
There's only one ball.
But you also think that one of them goes out and one of them stays in. So now you'll have one of them, whoever stays in, going against a second unit, which is amazing. It's kind of why the Warriors have dominated so much because they always have two of their big three, if you will, on the court. So, Steph needs a break, and you still have Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson on the court. If KD and Steph need a break, then you still have, there's always guys on the court that can score and put a basket, so you're always at an advantage. One of the guys that I think that's on my roster that's kind of under the radar that I think is going to have a really good season is Kelly Oubre. He had a great summer. He's a guy that, obviously he's been playing behind kind of Otto Porter, who they paid a lot of money, 2 summers ago, or last summer. Now it's kind of Kelly's year to kind of break out. And he's one of the best defenders in the league. And so I think he'll earn minutes by playing defense, but I think he's going to surprise people on the offensive end. And I think he'll have, a big jump in improvement. And then I think it's also interesting to see kind of what guys like Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins do. One of my guys. But now they have another guy that's a star, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can play together and figure that out. If they do, which I hope they do, I mean, they'll be a really, really good team as well.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of question marks. Like I said, a lot of it goes down to opportunity. The NBA is a very opportunity game. If you don't have the opportunity, you can't kind of show what you can do. And you look at guys sometimes. You look at Adrian Peterson in the NFL. 0 touchdowns in the first 4 games. He gets traded. Boom, 2 touchdowns. It's not like anything changed. It was just the opportunity. Yeah. Look at Tiger Woods in golf, most dominant golfer ever during his prime. One incident happens, and boom, now he hasn't won a major since. It's not that he lost his game. It's that he lost his mind. And so I think that's a big thing that a lot of casual fans don't realize is sometimes it's out of the player's control, or sometimes there's things that are off the court going on that kind of affect them on the court and et cetera. There's a lot of factors that go into being a good basketball player. But that's what makes being a fan so exciting, is because there's so many question marks going into the season, and we all, are making up our own kind of if-then statements that most of them are going to be completely wrong, but that's what the game's so fun to watch.
Yeah. All right. I for when we're talking question marks, I think the biggest question mark of the season is New Orleans. Can they, bringing in Boogie last year, but they did start to show signs after a little while of him and AD playing better together. Then they brought in Rondo in this offseason. I know he's going to miss some time, which some people are actually kind of seeing as a more positive thing if the team can kind of get some more chemistry going before he plugs back in, and getting him more rest. He's getting older. And then so I want to hear your thoughts on how what that team can do if you think having two beasts like AD and Boogie can work in today's NBA. And then after you give us that, I want to hear if you're still working with Ian or if you still stay in touch with them a lot, because I know our guy landed there. So I'm all on board for the Pelicans this year with two massive stars from Kentucky and our guy Ian Clark. Actually, I guess three pretty big stars when you count Rondo, but so.
Yeah, I work with Ian still. Solomon Hill was with me all summer. He's obviously out until like All-Star break, but he'll be a big piece for them when he comes back. And then Check Diallo is a guy I work with. So I work with three of the Pelicans right now.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm really close to the situation. Obviously they have two of the best big guys in the NBA, which is great. I think that adding Ian was a big addition, because what you need to do when you're around, two big guys is you got to have shooters around them. And so that last year injuries hurt them. Obviously, they didn't get Boogie until after the All-Star break. By that point, their season was already over, which is hard to play through. And then also Drew Holiday, obviously last year missed a lot of time. This year they'll miss Solomon Hill for a while, but I think they'll be able to figure it out. I think they'll be a playoff team. I don't think they're ready to make that next huge step. I think one of the things will be interesting to see how they manage is if the Boogie AD experiment isn't getting them the results they're wanting, do they trade one of them and get something back, because both of those guys are super valuable. And I think that'll be interesting to see, because in the back of their mind, there's a plan B that is, hey, listen, we've got two valuable assets. If we need to kind of, stop this experiment, we know we can get stuff in return. And there's a lot of teams around the league that would love to have one of those guys as their big guy. So I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they're ready to contend, beating the Warriors or beating, those kind of teams at the top. But I do think that it'll be interesting to watch and play out and see, do they end the season with the same team that they start the season with?
Yeah, because I know is this the last year on Boogie's contract, or does he have one? It's this year.
People thought this summer was crazy. Next summer is going to be even more wild, because you've got everybody that's out there that has a chance to leave. There's going to be some movement, and it's also going to be interesting to see, with the West so loaded, do some of these superstars that maybe traditionally would go to LA because they like LA, do they go east because they realize that, hey, all we got to do is team up and kind of try to make a run at LeBron, or do they just stay west and continue to kind of battle it out there?
We wouldn't be a sports podcast if we didn't conjecture way too far in the future. So I'm just going to ask you, do you think that LeBron is in a Cavaliers jersey at the beginning of next season?
I would. So I have a little insight on that, but what I can say is that I would say that this season is going to be the biggest determinant if he stays. And I think that that's the only fair way to say it. I think that, he's all in for this season. Obviously, they put a lot of, resources around him, and they've kind of made him happy, which is what you do when you have a superstar. You try to do whatever you can to keep them happy. And I think that, with the team that they will have a chance to compete with the Warriors. And I think you just go from there. It goes back to, did I think Kevin Durant was going to leave the Thunder? No, but then they blow a 3-1 lead, and he does. If the Thunder don't blow a 3-1 lead, Kevin Durant never goes to Golden State. If Golden State wins the championship, Kevin Durant doesn't go to Golden State. So many things can happen, and it took 2 3-1 leads blown for Kevin Durant to end up in a Golden State Warriors uniform. And so I think that this season kind of playing out, it'll really see, how LeBron kind of plays out. And, the Kyrie situation, we kind of knew about that beforehand, and we were shocked when we saw what happened and everything like that. But there was things that happened during the season that led to that. So I think that this season, will determine where LeBron is next season. And I think that also if he sees that he can still compete with the Warriors in Cleveland, he'll stay in Cleveland. But if he doesn't think that he has a chance to beat them, he's at a point right now where his legacy is number one. And so he's going to go somewhere where he thinks he has a chance to kind of dethrone the Warriors if they win again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and it'd be so tough to be running the Cavs right now, to have that, because they have the first round pick that was Brooklyn's, right, from the trade. To have an asset of that value, not knowing if the only thing that really matters about your team is going to be there in a year or not, but it's going to make him happier if you move it. But if you do that and they don't win a championship and he doesn't love what they have in the pocket, it'll be tough. I don't know. My guess was always that I think he'll do like another 1-1, and then he may opt out and go after another year. I think that I would put money on him that he'll be in a Cavs jersey at the start of next season. But after that, it'll up in the air. And he wants to go and banana boat crew it up. So we'll see. It's a lot.
I want to ask a little bit of a different question, because you're talking about like front office stuff, and you were talking about it a little bit before, Drew. Like, this is a question I don't know if you've gotten before, but like, what front office do you think that like isn't one of the front runners right now, that sort of been like on that edge, is just like one or two pieces away before to really making that next step? Like, it's really important to have a good front office. It's good to have like those veterans in place. Like, is there a team, you sort of talked about the Suns a little bit, but is there a team that you can think of that seems to have all of the right pieces in place there and just needs maybe a little bit more time or one more piece to make their vision really, really look great?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, obviously Philly, where Philly's at right now, is going to be very interesting. Obviously, they've got an experiment going on right now with Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz, kind of who's going to play point guard, who's going to play two guard, et cetera. But they started bringing guys, like I said, JJ was their first step in bringing in vets to kind of help out the young guys. They're in a really good position moving forward. You look at Minnesota, they're in a great position moving forward because they've got, three young guys that are really, really hungry to play. If they all buy in on the defensive end, they could be a really special team. You look at the Lakers, which is crazy because, right, this year they're not going to be very good. Jordan Clarkson's one of my best friends and worked with them for a long time. They're not going to be very good, but they have so much cap room. So next summer, they're going to get some big free agents finally. It's been a couple of years where Lakers fans every summer think that they're going to get everybody, but this year they'll finally get some players. They'll get two big-time players. So they're in a position where they're going to completely flip. And then the final one that I like that's, again, hasn't been on the radar is the team that, if they were healthy, would be a contender in the East, and that's Milwaukee. Because Milwaukee's got the Greek Freak, who's one of the best players in the NBA. They've got Jabari Parker, where when he was healthy, was averaging 20 points a game. And you got Chris Middleton, who was out last season, who is one of the best kind of two-way wing players that we have in the game that a lot of people forgot about. But you look where Milwaukee's at, they've got a good nucleus that, if they can stay healthy, I mean, they're going to be able to contend in the East, which, they're a top four team in the East when they're healthy.
I'm surprised you left off the list where you are now. I think that's where the Washington Wizards are close. I don't think they're, to take down Boston or Cleveland would definitely surprise me, but I think they've been inching closer and closer the past couple of years to becoming a real contender in the East. I don't think that if they were to get there or beyond, it would do much, but I'm also a huge homer and a massive John Wall fan. So I'd always admit my bias, and there's a little bit of one there, but I think they've been making the right moves.
John Wall with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, though, is a dangerous John Wall. Like I feel like he has that like NBA 2K, like I should have a higher rating thing in the back of his head too, and he's just going to make people pay for it.
Well, he's been healthy all summer for the first time in a while, which is huge.
You look at last season. I mean, they were game 7 away. You know what I mean? And so
yeah.
They're real close. The only thing is with them is it's one of those weird situations where a lot of times when you're a contender but you're not over the top, it's hard because then you're getting late draft picks. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's one of those things that I think they're a big guy away from it. Like I said, I love Kelly Oubre. I think that their core group of John Wall and Brad Beal being, if not the best backcourt in the NBA, one of the best backcourts in the NBA. But I think they're a big man away, and it's hard to get a great, solid big man without, having kind of the young assets that you can trade away.
Yeah, their cap. I'm not incredibly like on top of what their cap situation is, but I know that I have to like breathe into a bag and control myself when I think about the idea of Boogie and Wall playing together again. But I know that it's not the most ideal cap situation to be able to make that happen, but that would be unbelievable to see that again. I'm still to this day like in shock and just like and can't believe that team didn't win a national championship at UK, because those two alone were incredible and they had other good players around them. But the idea of them together would be unbelievable.
And the other thing, I'm real close with the Wizards front office, and this is what they've done the last couple of years. Like, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I'm like, yeah, look what they did. They had John Wall as the number 1 pick. They had Brad Beal as the number 3 pick. They've made the improvements that they needed to make, so now they're a contender. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is when you look at the Wizards, they've had their big change of, already, where they went from, I remember Brad's rookie season, I think they lost the first 14 games of the season or something like that. That was just a short period of time ago, and now they're, a game 7 away from playing Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So they're close, and hopefully they get over the barrier. It's funny because, the teams that will be battling it out for the 2-3 seed could be Celtics, Jason Tatum versus, Wizards, Brad Beal and Kelly. So, it'll be one of those things where I won't have a rooting interest. It'll just kind of be hoping my guys play well and do well, and but it'll be interesting to see how the East plays out this season.
All right, so we're do some rapid questions to you now, rapid fire questions to you, and then we'll send you on your way. Dom, you want to start us off?
All right, so first question, Joel Embiid, obviously king of social media. Everybody thinks he's hilarious. Other than Joel, who's somebody on your roster that you think is low-key funny?
Joel's just as funny in person as he is on social media, which is something that a lot of times people aren't. You know what I mean? A lot of times people kind of put on the front. But Jordan Clarkson's another hilarious one. He's just so goofy and just so free-spirited that he's like the low-key funny where he says stuff and everybody just kind of looks and laughs and just doesn't know what's going on. And then we're kind of laughing at him, not with him some of the times. But I think he's one of the guys that I work with that's really funny. But I've got a funny group of guys just because they're all young still and they're all kind of moving their way up the ranks. And so a lot of times that's when you have a lot of character, when they're kind of still in the immature stages of, they're not as serious as they probably should be. So we have a lot of fun over the summer.
That's funny. Have you met Jamal Murray? Is he like cool and weird as I want him to be? Because I know he like meditates like before and after all, like every time he steps on the court. I feel like he's like just is like a little wannabe Buddha with a great jump shot.
I've met him. He's a cool dude. Like I said, I'm not close with him. I don't work with him. From all the interactions that I've had, he's a cool guy that really works hard, and it's kind of like we joke around. We always give trouble to my Canadians that I work with and say that they're all back and kind of, it takes a little more to get them going, but he's got kind of a hard work ethic that and kind of more of an Americanized mentality, which the Canadians never believe that they're laid back, but they are, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
And, he works really, really hard and is a good kid. So you'll like that as a UK fan.
Oh yeah, love it.
So as a white basketball player, I need to ask you: do you prefer to get the term high motor or gritty? Which one do you actually prefer to be described as?
So great would be an option.
So either high motor or gritty.
Oh, gritty. Okay, I thought you said great. Yeah, so I used to always get the gritty was always that. You know what I mean? Like he's like the solid, steady point guard. You know what I mean? So I would hope that we could have a little more swagger and get different terminologies than those two. But that's the best thing that you can have, in my opinion. If they're like, oh, that white boy has swagger. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was always a thing I was after when I was playing.
Would you say does JJ have that swagger? I feel like JJ has that swagger.
He definitely has a swagger. Yeah, he definitely has, and he has a fade haircut now going into this season, so that's going to definitely up his street cred as well.
That's that Gordon Hayward, man.
Sure.
That Gordon Hayward, he completely transformed himself with that haircut. So.
Yeah, dude, he's like a walk and talking like makeover edition or something. But yeah, I feel like with you, they were always like, he's a gritty grinder player with a nice finesse jump shot. And I'm like, so is he a grinder and he's gritty, or is he like athletic and like a smooth player? What are we doing here? And so talking about your playing days, how many more years of Coach Bird do you think we have? Because I worry. I definitely worry.
Yeah, I would say we're in his last final stages. I would say that he's probably got, if I had to guess, 2 to 4 years left.
Yeah,
2 to 4
it's like
years left. Hopefully we can get him a tournament win before he gets out of there.
Yeah, I know. I was saying, like, I want that, but if it were to come this year and it being like, I think we only got like up to 4 years with him, but if he gets it, he might just be like, well, I'm all good now. I'm done. So it definitely scares me.
He's ready to go full all in on his golf game, which he spends his entire summer doing, but he's ready for that, I think.
I love it so much.
So you obviously know player evaluation, you know talent, you can work out guys. When are you going to leave the client work and actually just get a job on the bench?
Not anytime soon. I mean, I'm just too loyal to my clients right now. I love that I, have the ability to kind of do what I want. I'm my own boss. And the other thing is I think I'm in a niche where I excel best at. I think that when you're in my position, players seek you out. When you're on a team and you're on a bench, players have to work with you. It's a different mentality, so you can't get the same results. And I just love the relationship side of the business. I love doing other things. And then I've got, with Pure Sweat, we've got close to 75, 80 other trainers that are doing things around the country, and we're expanding globally. So I can positively affect more people doing what I'm doing. And I always tell people all the time that, my job is to maximize my players' career earnings and also maximize their happiness off the court. Those are my two objectives for every NBA client that I work with. And it kind of goes the same way when I work with youth players, or I train trainers that work with youth players. Can we maximize their playing ability, and can we maximize their happiness? Because as you guys know, like as I know, if I had to pick one game to replay, it would be a close call between the Duke game and my high school state championship that we won. And I picked the high school state championship because we won the game instead of, that feeling of walking out of Cameron with a 1-point loss. But and so those memories that you do, you earn as a high school player if you work hard during your youth, or getting, full ride scholarships for guys like myself that aren't going to play professionally, getting a degree for free, that's a huge win. So I would say just being able to positively affect people's happiness using basketball as kind of the avenue and platform, that's what I'm able to do, and that's what I love. And so I love helping people. I love basketball, and I just found a way to kind of connect the two and make a job out of it. And that's why I don't think I'll stop doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and you've been doing it for a while too. So, and I had heard, I think to me, he'll always be Big Chad, but more formerly Chad, and now he's just going around telling everyone's name's AC. But shout out to Chad Lang. But I think I remember him telling me, now that it's all cool or not cool, but it's popular to be investigated by the NCAA, didn't you have a case open with them because of how your business was starting to take off before you had graduated?
I had a ton of minor violations. And the minor violations were I was working, like, for instance, I was working out, David Lee, who was an NBA All-Star when I was at Belmont. I worked out John Wall when I was at Belmont. I worked out Isaiah Thomas while I was at Belmont. I worked out all these guys while I was at Belmont. And so when I was going up and doing things, I ran like the Reebok breakout camp when John Wall and Isaiah Thomas and Jameer Nelson and Jason Terry, all these guys were there. Zach LaVine was a player at the camp, believe it or not. We had a bunch of these guys. I was running those things, and Reebok was giving me a check for running those things. But again, you can't be paying, shoe companies can't pay. They didn't even realize I was in college at the time. They just thought I was a trainer. Now things for Nike, running the Nike Skills Academies, where again, that you can't have Nike. So the only thing that really helped me, Heather Copeland, who's our compliance director at Belmont, helped me a lot staying eligible. And we just kind of had to show the NCAA that I was doing everything by the rules, meaning that I was actually working to make the money. And there were a couple of wrist slaps that I got. I had a fundraiser that I had a rap concert, and all the money went to Haiti. And I was on the radio promoting, hey, come to the concert, which you're not allowed to promote an event using your name or like.
Yeah.
But it's stupid things like that when you raise, $50,000 for Haiti, an orphanage in Haiti for underprivileged kids. The NCAA actually, that was my biggest violation. So you're like, over and over again, I actually used one of the NCAA commercials against them. They had a running commercial that said, like, we have, 100,000 student athletes, and most of them will go pro something other than sports. So every time I wrote my kind of paper to kind of get eligible again, I always ended it with, you guys have a running ad that says there's and I'm trying to be a professional trainer. Please don't hold me back. And so
yeah, that's awesome.
In their face, and Heather Copeland did a great job as well, just to make sure that we were upfront and honest with everything we were doing. And the big thing, as long as you're transparent, honest, and you're really not doing anything that you're not trying to break the rules, normally they're pretty fair.
Yeah. Interesting. All right.
That's awesome. I have one more question for you. I'm up here in Seattle. This is where I live. Do you see any time in the next 5 years that this city gets a basketball team back?
Top 5 years, I'm not sure, but I think that Seattle would be number one on the next expansion. I think that the Vegas thing, it'll be depend on how the Raiders situation plays out. Vegas could be another place, and then Kansas City. I've heard those are three of the top, kind of cities that they would look at. But I think Seattle, first and foremost, would be the number one destination that they would try to whether they expanded or whether they moved a team. So I think that you guys would be next in line. You know what I mean? Now, next in line could be good or bad. If you're next in line and somebody gets married, that means you're single for the rest of your life. But line in a business avenue normally means eventually it'll happen. So
that's a great comparison situation.
I think that's where we should probably wrap it. You can't really beat anything like that. So
I've got one I want to close with, and it kind of relates and piggybacks off that. So why, is there not enough of a call in St. Louis for an NBA team ever? And then also, do you follow the Blues at all? Being a St. Louis guy, and they're what's left, kind of. I grew up playing hockey for 12 years, and I'm a huge hockey fan now, and all in on the Preds. But I wasn't sure what your situation was with the Blues and why there's no NBA team, or ever even a rumor.
First and foremost, the cool fact, if you're ever arguing with, Atlanta people, is the last time the Hawks won a championship, they were in St. Louis, which is So you can, anytime they say, well, you guys don't even have an NBA team, you can say, well, at least when we had one, we won a championship. I don't think the NBA will ever move to St. Louis. I mean, if you look at the St. Louis Billikens fan base, if you look at Mizzou's fan base, I don't think their college teams are drawing enough attention, and they're not basketball crazy. It's not a basketball crazy city. You look at there's a lot of NBA players coming from the St. Louis region, whether that's Brad Beal, David Lee, Jason Tatum, Ben McLemore. Then you even go down south, got Otto Porter, who is just right down the road, Michael Porter, et cetera. But I don't think there's enough of a fan base to really get consistent crowds on a nightly basis. And we just lost, the Rams because we didn't get consistent crowds. That hurt us as well. I will tell you that I completely was the biggest Rams fan ever, a season ticket holder ever since they moved there. Completely jumped off the bandwagon, and almost in spite, I think I'm going to make the Chargers my new team just because they're competing for fans in LA.
That's what I have to do as well.
I don't follow the Blues until the playoffs. So last year, a couple of playoffs, the last couple of years when they're in the playoffs, I'll jump on the bandwagon. Just being a St. Louis guy, I love that. But I am a huge Cardinals fan. So it's hurt me the last couple of years to see the Cubs doing well, and it's the last couple of years that we haven't done as well. I kind of take blame because I moved to LA, and ever since we moved to LA, we haven't had as much success. So I kind of put the blame on my shoulders. They lost one of their biggest fans, So
that's what it is. And then the NFL team came to you, and you said, "Fuck out of here! I don't need you." Cool. All right. Well, I know you are a very busy man who's going to be on the road for the next month, so we'll let you get some work done, and then hopefully you get some rest between all of your flying on 4 Southwest flights at once or whatever it is you've got going on.
Thanks so much for having me on. It was fun.
Well, that was awesome.
Yeah, now I know everything about everyone in the NBA. So
what a dude.
What up? Yeah, he's the man. He's a really good guy. Really nice dude.
Talking, and I peeped at his Instagram too. Your boy is jacked. It is wild. And then the fact that he's just buddies with all these NBA players. I mean, buddies, they're clients. I get it, but still, it's wild. Yeah,
and I think with a lot of them, he definitely blurs a line of friendship because he said he was genuine about caring about them and their lives off the court and things, and that's part of his responsibility in a way. So
for sure,
he's the man. Is from successful growing his business to just being a badass good dude. He covers all the check marks. So appreciate him.
All right, it. Let's that was extra long, so let's wrap this thing up. You and I, you went 2-3 in your locks last week, not bad. I went 2-4, kind of shit the bed on a couple of things, but that takes us to our one of our favorite segments, one that we have to.
Hold on, but that's always our last thing. We have to talk about Monday night for a second.
Oh my God, yes! How could I forget?
Did you win or lose off that? Did you not have any action? My biggest story was fantasy related, which we don't talk about as much. But I was down, so it was my last player playing was Derrick Henry. The guy I was playing against his last player was DeMarco Murray. I was down 10 points on the week until that last play and won by 3. What in the world is up?
Yeah. I ended up I ended up winning my bet because of that. And when I saw that Mariota was coming back, I was like, all right, I feel good about this. This is where I'm going to go with my money. And yeah, it ended up pulling off. I didn't think it was going to. Like, I was watching it just on my phone, and yeah, it was a one hell of a comeback. I'm just really pissed because we're playing against our boy Brandon. I was playing against our boy Brandon.
Oh, yeah.
And I have Aaron Rodgers, so that sucked.
Not great.
And then I also had Adrian Peterson, and he's done so little for me that I benched him. So if I would have put him in instead of either one of my running backs or played Phillip Rivers instead, I would have ended up winning. But
would have been Gucci.
I didn't.
Right.
You know what?
My whole injuries have ruined me too.
Nobody gives a shit about people's fantasy teams, so let's stop talking about that.
Yep.
All right.
Now it's on. It's everyone's favorite segment or bit or
Garrett.
It's almost like becoming
It's everybody's favorite time.
Process.
Yeah, it's a time to process how we're feeling. So, Garrett, how about you go ahead first? You go ahead first, my man.
All right.
The floor is yours.
This one, I mean, what's going on, man? The War Damn Eagle goes to LSU, and they just got to be up by 4 points at halftime. That's not very hard. In fact, it felt like free money. It was not free money. It was hard. I fucked up. And I'm sorry. The damn Coach O and his Tigers.
Got to apologize to walk-ons, too.
Yeah. We can't. See, we bet against walk-ons. That's on me. That's on. I fucked up.
Yeah.
Now I feel better, though. So.
We obviously record this Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. Sometimes I don't have I fucked up until Monday. This past week I had it on Friday. I thought Mike Leach and the boys were going to go to Cal and finish the job that their friends up in here in Seattle started. Washington absolutely blew the doors off of Cal. So I thought, Washington State can at least cover 15 if Washington can cover so many. Well, not only did Washington straight up lose their game, but I put a decent amount of money on Washington State minus 15 points against Cal on a Friday night. Thought those boys would get up, and they didn't even get in the end zone. Mike Leach said it. They outcoached us. They outplayed us at every single position on the field. I made that bet, and I told you to make it too. So, guys, I fucked up.
Yeah,
all right.
Feels better, though.
All right. Shake it off. We have a lot of action to bet on tonight, guys. I am telling you, I think it's free money to bet on the Celtics money line tonight. I think that they beat the Cavs. I think they do it pretty well. And I also think that the Warriors are going to cover 9.5 points against a Rockets team that I'm not sure is going to be able to mesh well. So I personally put $100 down on that parlay, hoping to be able to come home with about $360. So feel free to do the same if you care to.
It's good money. I like the even safer parlay of Celtics +4 last time I looked. I don't know if it's still at 4. And then I saw that the Warriors went back down to 9 last time I checked before we started.
Every half point costs.
So I think take the point. Take the points with Boston, and I think Golden State covers. That's what I recommend.
All right, guys.
More of that on Thursday.
Exactly. Thanks so much. Really appreciate having you guys on. Make sure you give Drew a follow. Make sure you give us a follow. Share this below. Rate and subscribe on iTunes when this podcast comes out. All right, guys. Until next time.